It's looking like a tight squeeze, getting 28 European nations to agree on a deal to send refugees and migrants back to Turkey. As an EU summit opened in Brussels earlier, nations still divided between the anything to shut the door camp, willing to send back new arrivals and swap them for bona fide asylum seekers already in Turkey, and those who worry it'll mean an open-ended commitment to take in yet more Syrians. Moreover, there are the likes of Cyprus and France balking at the possible deal sweeteners, most notably the lifting of visa restrictions for Turks and a faster track for Ankara's EU membership application. With President Erdogan cracking down on dissent at home and waging war against US-allied Syrian Kurds who are fighting ISIS, is the EU empowering Erdogan when it should be giving him a wider berth? At the heart of it all, Germany's Chancellor Angela Merkel backing the deal and staying the course despite the rise at home of anti-immigrant forces, including inside of her own party. Today in the France 24 debate, is the refugee plan being discussed in Brussels a delight for the Turkish? Well, with us from Berlin, from Angela Merkel's CDU party, Elmar Brok, who chairs the European Parliament's Foreign Affairs Committee. Thank you for joining us.
Hello, thank you very much.
French conservative Les Républicains member of Parliament, Jacques Millard, is with us. Nice
Good evening.
To see you. Paris-based British journalist Alex Taylor, welcome back. And from Athens, Yanis Bournou, who heads the Foreign Affairs Committee inside Greece's ruling Syriza party. Welcome to the show.
Good evening from Athens.
The France 24 debate, where you can join the conversation on Facebook and Twitter, our hashtag F24debate. Well, they're hoping it's going to be second time lucky for that EU-Turkey deal in Brussels. Last week, they already sat down to try and agree. Leaders over 2 days, once again, will be combing over it, the hope of a consensus before a Friday breakfast with the Turkish Prime Minister.
As the negotiations intensify and we are moving into difficult talks, only if we all work together in a coordinated manner and keep our cool, we will achieve success. I am cautiously optimistic, but frankly speaking, more cautious than optimistic.
But there are plenty of stumbling blocks, as we said. The first one, Cyprus, the president blowing hot and cold, saying a compromise is possible, but Ankara has to respect previous agreements. He's still threatening a veto. Elmar Brok, is there a real chance Cyprus could veto any deal?
There's a possibility. I discussed this matter with the Cyprus president this afternoon, and he's really concerned that he had to go too far and forced to go too far. And here we have to respect the situation. They're in a good negotiation with their Turkish partners on the island, and I think he cannot give away his bargaining chips before these negotiations are concluded. And hopefully all partners will respect that to find a compromise in this question, because otherwise there is the danger of a veto.
What is the biggest stumbling block for you?
I think this is an important question. Cyprus has here an immediate interest in it, but I consider that it's more or less the biggest stumbling block what we see. My impression is, after meetings that took part in this afternoon, that there is nearly everywhere the will to come to a conclusion, because this is in a common interest. And I believe if the Turkish part will have the same attitude tomorrow morning, then I think there is a good chance to come to a compromise.
Do you think it's a good deal?
I think it is a good deal. It's a deal which is, because good of humanitarian reasons, we can avoid that in the future illegal entrance over the sea with all those dangers in the Mediterranean will not be given anymore. It will become less people. It will become people mostly who have a right to come because of the refugees from a war or real asylum seekers. We avoid this terrible situation at the Greek-Macedonian border. And we have in Europe the chance to have that in a way that we can have figures which we can deal with and have an orderly procedure in order to come to a situation which makes it possible that, at least from that part of the world, the refugee question might become handleable.
Yanis Bournou, do you agree that this is a good deal, or some people saying it's not going to work?
The question of whether this agreement will be efficient enough and will work or not depends on many different factors. One factor is whether the Turkish government will respect the agreements that are going to be signed. Because the first signs, even after the presence of NATO vessels in the Aegean, is that they have unilaterally not respecting the agreements we have had until now. A second factor is the fact that a number of European Union states, with the Visegrad countries champions in this effort, they are unilaterally violating the agreements decided or promoted by the European Council. This is one example of the exercised policy in the European Union and our region as a whole.
Just explain what states are violating the previous deals inside the EU.
I suppose that you remember that under the initiative of the Austrian government, there was a meeting of ministers, of foreign ministers and ministers of interior of Austria, the Visegrad countries, and some Western Balkan states concerning the refugee crisis, where, for example, Greece was not invited, exactly after the previous European Council, that unilaterally decided to promote the policy of closed borders and close the Balkan way. And in this way, jeopardize the life of thousands of refugees of war who are willing to distribute themselves in the European Union member states. This model of European Union cannot work and does not work. If everyone unilaterally violates everything that is being agreed, then what's the purpose of discussing even for any kind of European integration idea? The policy that Greece has been promoting is an alternative policy of solidarity and the promotion of a solution of a European shared responsibility solution to this drama of 1 million people that lost their houses because of war.
Alex Taylor, your reaction to that? The representative there of Syriza, Yanis Bournos, saying that Turkey so far hasn't respected what's been agreed upon last November, and that neighboring states are not respecting their own pledges.
Well, nobody's respecting a lot of the commitments they've made in this huge crisis, which is hitting our continent. That's not a big surprise. I mean, I think that the problem. I agree with what's been said. Obviously, people in Greece are feeling this problem very acutely because everybody's arriving in Greece. I think the basic problem is that there's not enough Europe. We haven't got together enough to give Europe sufficient powers to apply the solutions that only as a continent we can come together to find to this massive, unprecedented crisis, which is resulting from a problem which, once again, is not a European problem. It's a problem which is happening in the Middle East, in Syria. People are fleeing war zones. So it's not actually a European problem. Europe is one of the areas of the world which is having to deal with it. Turkey is having to deal with it, and countries like Lebanon are having to deal with it too. But the specific way that Europe has reacted is faulty simply because there's not enough Europe. We all get together and we decide these things, but Europeans don't. Different European states say, oh yes, well, I don't want to do this and I don't want to do that and everything. The problem is that our structures in Europe are not strong enough to impose the solutions that we find together. If they were stronger, then we would be able to impose and find a solution to this unprecedented crisis.
France had pledged to welcome a little under 30,000. So far, they've welcomed 700 Syrian asylum seekers. Jacques Millard, your reaction to that?
First of all, I would like to say that, of course, the situation of today is a very delicate one. And I do understand the Greeks who are reacted in this way. And I do understand people who say that we cannot accept such situation. But if you understand very well what happened, you have to go back. Where are the mistakes? There are several mistakes. There are the mistakes to believe that in the Schengen Agreement, if you control the outer frontiers, you control everything. This is pure utopia. especially with Greece and many other parts of Europe. Secondly, there was a mistake by Madame Merkel, who announced that she was going to take 800,000 refugees. I was in Jordan and Saudi Arabia when it happened. And when it happened, it created such an appeal that everyone was going on. Third mistake, that we were blind on the way of Turkey's role in the region, which has been, sending arms in the Syrian war, which is no more a civil war, but a war by proxy. And they've, of course, received people on their own soil, and they opened their border once because, they were in a very delicate situation. So this is this question of combination of all those mistakes where we are facing today the reality, which is on Europe. So it doesn't mean that, of course, we cannot find a solution. This solution, I'm very surprised, because some speak of an agreement at the stage we are speaking today. I don't know really what is at stake and what kind of solution we have. According to the AFP dispatches, it says that every time we are sending one man to Turkey, we are going to take one more. What does it mean? We have to help, and I agree with you, we have to help the countries around the civil war and this proxy war. That means Jordan, that means Turkey, and also Greece now. We have to help them very, very massively. But on the other hand, I'm very surprised that Saudi Arabia is not taking one guy. This is why I think that we pay today our weakness, our mistakes, but we have to face the situation. And I would say that...
But this isn't the way, for instance, the head of the Liberals in the European Parliament, Guy Verhofstadt, said that he talked about Canada doesn't give a damn about the Syrian conflict, but it still welcomed thousands of refugees humanely. That's precisely what's missing in Europe, where we treat refugees like enemies. Do you agree with that?
Well, first of all, we are bound by the Geneva Convention, and France will, is really respecting those. That means everyone who comes and say, I ask for political asylum, he will get it. But on the other hand, we are facing so-called economic migrants. And I am not even talking about sometimes terrorists, because there were two guys at the Bataclan affair who came this way, into Europe. They were terrorists, and we have found also many weapons which have been shipped to Europe.
Using fake Syrian passports.
With Syrian passports, because nobody knows they were false, with false identity and things like that. But I put that aside, because all those people are not terrorists, of course. There are maybe few, but they are not terrorists. And the point is that how do we accept in Europe, economic migrants, because they are not only fleeing from war, they are fleeing because sometimes they go this way, because you have 50% of Syrians, but you don't have also Syrians.
A lot of European countries need economic migrants. I don't agree with you at all.
Let's talk about economic migrants.
We have 4 million unemployed people. We are not going to take more.
I don't agree with you at all that Frau Merkel made a mistake. For example, if I know what happened last Sunday with the midterm elections, the regional elections in Germany, with the rise of alternative for Germany, but that often happens in countries. Frau Merkel's own popularity is rising again. I mean, Germany...
I'm not talking about popularity.
No, okay,
she announced without any consultation, without negotiation with other European states, that she was accepting 800,000 refugees. In Germany, not in Germany, because there are directives and reglements which says that when you enter a country, you can travel everywhere.
Let me ask Elmar Brock on this. Elmar Brock?
Part of it.
Elmar Brock.
I'm a little bit confused in this debate. I have the feeling that only one person is speaking all the time, or I'm wrong.
Elmar Brock, first of all, what do you think is, for instance, France honoring its commitments when it comes to pledges for taking in asylum seekers?
I think this is a global issue. We have 60 million refugees in this world, 12 million because of the war in Syria and Iraq. This is on our borders, both from Africa and from the Middle East. And here have to give a common answer. The first mistake that we did is that we did not support the refugees in Syria, in Lebanon, in Turkey and Jordan enough. We decreased the amount of money we gave to the United Nations to take care of that. That is one of the main reasons. Now we have to change that in order to finance better the situation of the refugees in Turkey, that they can stay close to their homes, to go back to Syria or Iraq when the peace makes it possible. And I believe that the present ceasefire is a good chance from that to develop a situation that in the western part of Syria, people can live again safer. They will be not run away because the shooting has more or less stopped, and that we can then concentrate, if this peace negotiations in Geneva will be successful, that we have a joint policy against the Islamic State in order to bring them back, as it was already successful in part of Iraqi Kurdistan, and where we are now on a way to go to Mosul in order to solve that problem, to bring the chance for the people. That is the root cause in that region. And the two root causes, the migration situation in the neighboring country and the war in Iraq and Syria. And here we have to go forward. And I think this deal with Turkey is an instrument partly to get hold of that situation of the migrants in the surrounding countries.
But on that point, Elmar Brock, that's an important point you just made there. On the hashtag F24 debate, one viewer saying this migrant deal with Turkey is the EU succumbing to blackmail. You heard before from Athens, Yanis Bournou saying that Turkey has not honored its commitments so far. How do we know Turkey's going to stick by whatever deal is agreed to, if it's agreed to on Friday?
First of all, a country like Turkey has since a few years 2.5 to 3 million refugees. Lebanon, 4 million citizens as population, has 1.5 million refugees. We have to take that into account what these countries have already done. And we have to do these countries in order to make it possible that they can keep their people there. That is the main question. The second question, Turkey has not... We are in the middle of the negotiations, but we can see also Greece has not met its commitments. We wait since 1 year that the hotspots are built in Greece. We have seen, and most of the people came to Germany, that they were not registered.
All right, we're going to pick up on that point. We have to take a very quick break. We'll be right back. You're watching the France 24 debate.